Welcome to the Fourth Estate, your number one program on television where we take issues around Nigeria from the media perspective. My name is Folashade Oguride. Today we'll be taking a look at some very interesting issues across the nation. The first is Northern Youths issue President Muhammadu Buhari 30 days ultimatum to implement Ruga across Nigeria. And the second issue is request for 10 hectares of land in each of the 19 states by a group called Nigerian Yoruba Pig Farmers to expand their piggery business. The third issue we're looking at today is court orders release of payment details to runaway electricity contractors by Obasanjo, Jonathan and others. And fourthly, North backward, uneducated, unhealthy, says El Rufai. These and more after the break. Don't go anywhere, we'll join you shortly. Welcome back to the Fourth Estate, your number one current affairs program on television. Today I have with me some esteemed guests and guest analysts on the show. I have with me OSA director, he's a lawyer and a journalist. How are you?
I'm okay, could be better.
Yeah, looking at the Nigerian situation, of course.
Yes.
And I also have with me Shina Lorimiko, he's a convener of the civil society group Campaign Against Impunity in Nigeria, CAIN. How are you?
I'm fine.
Now, how are you doing today?
Still early to predict, but I hope it will end well.
All right. So let's head now to the first business of the day, which is Northern Youths issue President Muhammadu Buhari 30 days ultimatum to implement Ruga across Nigeria. Now, after that statement was made, the presidency came out to, allay the fears of Nigerians, telling them to ignore the threat, because most people in some quarters felt it was a threat to the security and unity of the nation. Now, what meaning can we give to the ultimatum by the Northern Youths, under the name Coalition of Northern Group? Is it, for the national interest of Nigerians?
Well, certainly it cannot be in the national interest, because it was not just veiled, it was a pungent and direct threat to the cohesion and unity of this country and the oneness of this country. And the successive president, including Muhammadu Buhari, has always said that Nigeria is indivisible and the unity of Nigeria cannot be compromised. But the actions and statement was a direct threat to such aspiration, national aspiration. I think I was clearly disappointed in the sense that even when our brothers from Niger Delta, we also issued such threats. We also said there was a need to temper and moderate such speeches in the national interest. So naturally, I was very, very uncomfortable with this kind of statement coming from the Northern Youth. And then for the federal government to say they are laying the fears of people, well, that's okay, but in a decent, civilized society where there is democracy, rule of law entrenched, I think they should have gone a step further by charging them for sedition. When I was arrested as a journalist then, I was tried under the Penal Code, Section 418 and 416, which is causing incitement against the state. And that's exactly what they have done, which is contrary to the Penal Code, Section 416 and 418. So I expected them to arraign them, but if you treat them with gloves, you sustain a culture of impunity. So that's why I'm happy my friend and brother is here today, who is the convener of Campaign Against Impunity, because these are the things that entrenches impunity in the society, where people talk out of context, against the law, and they are not held accountable.
All right, Shina Lorimiko, I would like to know, what is your perspective to this? Because we've had cases of, with regards to the Ruga issue, it was quite sensitive. It was a very sensitive issue because some parts of the country, that's the southwest and the south and the southeast, were obviously, against, the notion of Ruga settlement in the parts of the states. But now the coalition of Northern Group, came out to give a direct threat to, these people of the south and the southeast who are living in the north, and saying that you know, a group is not, you know, not a group can't just say they don't want Ruga, that they also have, you know, the power to also, you know, counter the other. There's people from the south and the southeast who are also living in the north. Now, so as you know, an activist, what do you think? What are your thoughts with regards to these issues?
Sincerely, I'm in a dilemma, and I'm still yet to get a plumb to really measure the public issue in the space now. If we have a government that is committed to certain public policies, namely, we say we want free and compulsory primary and junior secondary education. As a government, if we say we have subscribed to the African Charter that says that water is a right to every citizen. If we say as a government we subscribe to the Sustainable Development Goal that says goal number 1, all effort must be done to end hunger. Goal number 2, all effort must be made to end poverty. I want to ask myself as an activist, how has the Nigerian state comply and meet up this standard, national standard, regional standard, universal standard, and yet heaven has not fallen? If some group of persons gather and give an ultimatum, it's their opinion. There are numerous institutions in the government to test the terrain, whether it is an empty threat or otherwise. And if it's not an empty threat, there are laid down processes of addressing those issues. So I think the recent pronouncement is a template to know if really we have a government in Nigeria or we just have people occupying state house pretending they hold and control state power.
All right, now let's move on to the second issue of the day, which is request for 10 acres of land in each of the 19 states by a group called Nigerian Yoruba Pig Farmers to expand their piggery business. You know, when this news broke out on the internet, you know, most people felt it was more or less like a joke, or, you know, but the fact that cattle rearers are usually Fulanis, and the Yoruba pig farmers are saying that they also want their own hectares of land. Now, I think the thing to it is, you know, groups are now saying, I think the Igbos also said they want, you know, a certain space where they can do their business. I mean, free of charge. If the federal government can give farmers and herders rather, you know, free land to you know grow their cattle, then other private businesses too should be given that opportunity to also do the same. So now, what I want to say is, what I want to ask now is a request genuine? Is it something that each, you know, group or each business organization could request for from the government?
Well, considering the precedent the federal government is laying by insisting on giving of land for Ruga, free of charge, ancestral lands of people, I have stated it in this program before that I'm a journalist. I would be grateful that government should give me land to build a house and supply me newsprint, because cattle herding or cattle rearing is simply private venture. So I really don't know why, you know, there's this insistence about Ruga and the other means of compensating the cattle herders. All government needs to do for all businesses is to provide an enabling environment. You don't single out a particular one and say this is what I'm interested in. Like we all know, the Niger Delta region practically feeds this country, provides over 90% of the resources for this country. But that is a place where the entire ecosystem has been degraded, dishonored and debilitated by hydrocarbons effluents and related organic substances, to the extent that no land for farming, no land for fishing. But did any government in this country ever say, please, can we provide land for Niger Deltans to fish and to farm? No. So, if they are now the federal government is insisting on land for Ruga, I don't see any reason why other groups cannot begin to agitate for their own.
With regards to the federal government side and the Katu, the Fulani, the Katu headsmen. Now, one thing they keep on saying is that this is going to be a solution to the farmers' headsmen clash experienced in Nigeria. Do you think this is a genuine solution to this? And, as an activist, what would you say, if you want to advise the government, what would you say they should do with regards to these issues?
I want to start by saying that let's assume Mr. Alao Akabashon, the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, is alive, or the famous and popular Chief Gani Fawehinmi SAN is alive. They will have said, you can't put something on nothing. By virtue of the Land Use Act, the federal government does not have any land. The federal government only has a territory called Nigeria.
And some groups have even said that the federal government, with regards to the law you quoted now, that the federal government might repeal the Land Use Act.
If they also want to repeal the Land Use Act, there is a process. It's like any one of us who took your girlfriend to the registry and you wedded. If you want to quit from the marriage, there is a process. You can't just say, Madam, I now dislike you, you can go. There is a process. If we want to repeal the Land Use Act, there is a process. But the point I'm making is this: land in Nigeria today, by virtue of the law, belong to the state government. So, and like we are made to understand, Fashola said, as Honorable Minister of Works, Housing, and Power, as he was then, he needed land to build houses in Lagos. He applied to the then governor of Lagos State, Ambode. If Ambode like, he will give him a swampy land. If Ambode like, he will give him a rocky land. And if Ambode has not allocated the land to him, he cannot start a housing project. So that's one dilemma. The other one is this. One of my friends told me what my parents have told me before, that even in Yoruba land, there are native cows. In Igbo land, they have their own native cows. So this is the time for us to be more creative if we really want to eliminate tension in the polity and also reduce instigated violence.
Very much, Mr. Lorimiko. Now we head to the third issue of the day, which is court orders release of payment details to runaway electricity contractors by Obasanjo, Jonathan, others. Let's head to the third business of the day, which is court orders release of payment details to runaway electricity contractors by Obasanjo, Jonathan, others. Now, I'm going to take a paragraph of the news story with regards to that topic. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has ordered the immediate release of details of payment to all defaulting and allegedly corrupt electricity contractors and companies by the governments of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, former President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and former President Goodluck Jonathan, and also the government of Muhammadu Buhari. Now, I'm going to direct this question to Mr. Lorimiko. Now, we've had issues of Nigerians being seen as a corrupt government, And this is playing out now in this news reports that, we have some contractors who under several governments were giving money to, execute some electricity projects. And now, according to the reports, it's alleged that these contractors take the money and do not execute the said projects they were paid for. What would you say? Of course, it's a reflection of the Nigerian society, but beyond publishing the names of these contractors, how do you think, this issue of, people being paid to do certain jobs and they not, executing the jobs? What are your thoughts on this?
You see, we have been paying for darkness for so long that the more we are in dark, the more our people are getting more creative. We are grateful that we have a Freedom of Information Act. A civil society group called SERAP employed that strategy of Freedom of Information Act to ask questions. And in the beginning, we were told it was only one contractor, and government is also making efforts to retrieve public funds from the contractor. Now we are getting to a stage that they are saying whether it is one contractor or not, give us total disclosure. That total disclosure will show us the caliber of persons and their associates that have collected our collective wealth for their own personal development. I read an article written by Tunde Fagbele almost 10 years ago, I think sometimes in 1996, and he was lamenting that there is a stadium in Ikeja, and I know that stadium along Joel Ogunaike, and that stadium was later sold, and individuals bought the plots, developed them, and brought very high fences there. I don't see anything wrong there changing the look of public utilities. Like many years ago, Campus Square was a burial ground where Chief Rotimi Williams' father was buried. Later it became a stadium. Today is a mini stadium. I don't see anything wrong with that. But let's do things for public interest, public gain, public benefit, not for individual gains. It's sad that people collected our collective wealth, and by the time you find out, when there is total disclosure, you may find out that most of those riding limousines, Lamborghini, most of those with private jets, most of those with properties in Banana Island, in Asokoro, are the one who benefited from these electricity funds. Yet, we all are in darkness. Just within some few days, residents of Magodo were lamenting the high tariff of electricity bill and how they've been paying for street lights. If ABC has been done correctly on electricity, we should be enjoying. There is no base. I feel sad that it's only in Nigeria that I find out that almost everybody at one time or the other will shut down their computer system.
Yes.
And also,
sure.
even the issue of with regards to the example you gave about people who are overcharged for power use. But if we keep on talking about it, we'll talk about it tomorrow. But we need to move on now to the issue of El Rufai's statement about North being backward, uneducated, and unhealthy, says El Rufai. I'll take a paragraph of his speech. He said the Kaduna State Governor Nasser El Rufai said during the Northern Youth Summit organized by Northern Hibiscus Initiative in Kaduna that the region has made Nigeria a country of nations. He went on to say that looking at the statistics, Nigeria appears to be a middle-income country, but if we segregate those statistics across states and zones, you will see that in terms of human development indicators, Nigeria consists of two countries. There is a backward, less educated and unhealthy northern Nigeria, and a developing, largely educated and forward-moving southern part of Nigeria. Now, this is El-Rufai saying this. Now, some people feel that El-Rufai statement about two-in-one nation, is he saying something which is feasible? Are these things, what could be his motive or solutions to address the situation? Because he's saying that northern Nigeria is backward, and even some people have said in some quarters that is part of the problem of the northern, the issues in the northern part of Nigeria. I would like Mr. Noremikon to say one or two things with regards to this.
I think it was the former British Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, who said the Good Samaritan, it was not only intentional that she wants to do good, but because she also has some amount of money with her. El-Rufai has spoken, and sincerely he spoke my mind. But when I look at him, I say, is he the right person to tell us this? If he understood the level of backwardness, underdevelopment, and poverty in Nigeria the way he has analyzed it, what effort is he making beyond good intention to reverse the trend? The way I have known Kaduna as far back as 1985-86 in terms of addressing underdevelopment is still the same. When you get to an average junction in Kaduna where there is a traffic light or a traffic officer, the first 20-30 meters will be either bicycle riders or motorcyclists before you now see motorists. The same Kaduna, you see children that are supposed to be in formal school, primary or secondary school, walking around the streets unkept with food container, dinner plates.
That should be Al-Majiri.
Oh, maybe you know. And I'm sure my friend, the publisher and editor, know them better than I do. They always move around. You also find out that many of the women are not engaged in any economic productive activity in the north. Many. So you just see them hanging around. Their husband has flew to one place or the other and they are expecting. And the problem of birth control is alien. I have not seen Governor El-Rufai addressing that. If you want to compare the little tenure of Alhaji Balarabe Musa as governor of Kaduna State and structural changes, you understand what I'm saying. One is sleeping, one is awake. One is working hard, one is working smart. El-Rufai is talking too much. I can't see the action. Lip service, cosmetics development is what I'm seeing.
All right, speaking of national development, we'll move on to the last issue of the day, which is Harvard University uses Nigeria as a case study of a failed African country. Now my question is this: is Nigeria a failed country? Mr. Noremikon.
To be precise, a country or a government is called a failed state if the main functional responsibility of the government is absence. That is protection of life and property. So whether it's a communist state, whether it's a capitalist state, whether it's a developing state, whether it's underdeveloping state, whether you are in the first world, whether you are in the second world, whether you are in the third world or any other world, If you cannot protect life and property, you are a failed state.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Loremiko. Sorry to interrupt you. Now, Mr. OSA Director, what do you think are the indices or things that Harvard investors saw to pick Nigeria as a case study?
Yeah, because like he said, one of the fundamental indicator of a failed state is lack of protection of lives and property. Nigeria today, life has descended into the Hobbesian state, short, nasty, and brutish. So we have Boko Haram, Fulani, it's a herdsmen. Now, sorry, I withdraw that.
It's not that safe to.
Yeah, herdsmen and farmers, clashing, kidnapping, armed robbery, everywhere. So, at the end of the day, life is not safe. The government has lost control. That is just the truth. It's exactly what I said just now, that people coming to threaten the nation. And you are coming to give assurances instead of doing what is lawful and needful.
All right, we're going to end with that. Nigeria is a failing state, and we hope that the Nigerian government, put everything in place to take us out of this issues and put Nigeria as it should be, as the giant of Africa. Thank you very much, Mr. Loremiko, for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you very much, Mr. OSA Director. Glad to have you here today.
Always nice being here.
All right, many thanks to my producer, Mrs. Funke Fadugba. Thank you very much for producing me. And to the rest of the production crew, my name is Folashade Ogurinde. See you again next time.